Today we're talking monitors. We're going to be talking about the Dell G2723H. This is going to be a 280Hz 1080p 27-inch monitor. So if you're looking for a full HD monitor, 1080p monitor, and you're looking for 240 to 280 Hz, you probably want to stick around the $200 price range. That's going to get you some pretty good value. So the Dell G2723H is pretty good, 1080p, 240 Hz. It can overclock to 280 Hz. One of the things that you want to make sure that you understand is that if you go to 250, 60, 70, or 80 Hz, you're going to lose out on variable refresh rate. I don't think it's actually worth it to lose out on that, so I stick at 240 Hz on my particular panel. Rated response time is 0.5 milliseconds, and it's going to be considered a fast IPS panel. Now, this is going to be true for most IPS panels that are this fast. It's a WLED panel, but it is IPS. It has a contrast ratio of 1000 to 1, about 400 CDM2, which is pretty good. That's your candela per square meter, however you say that. It's got some decent ergonomics. It does not have a swivel where you can go this way. If I'm trying to pull it, it's going to move the base back and forth. But we can go up and down. I can push it down. I can push it up. I love the Dell's connecting mechanism. On the back, it's just a button. You just clip it out. Super easy. All these Dell monitors do this tilt, where you can tilt it very far. So I could actually tilt this. It's hard to do it with one hand. But you can actually tilt this all the way 90 degrees and go all the way to 90 degrees. So if you wanted to have the monitor this way, you could totally do that, which is super cool. I also like the fact that it's fairly muted. It is a gaming monitor, but there's not a lot of gamery stuff on it. It's got fairly thin bezels, not the smallest bezels, but not the largest bezels. Another thing that's a little interesting about this monitor after I purchased it is that it doesn't actually show up on the Dell website when I click on it anymore. I can find it. I can find the UK version, the G2723H, and currently it's selling for £259 or 329 US dollars. You can also find it on eBay. eBay, we're looking at about $200. I say this is going to be your better value for sure. I would not buy this monitor if it were over $200. It just doesn't seem like very good value at that point. Okay, testing. 120 versus 240 Hertz. So let's freeze the frame and take a look at this. So we have our reference image of our alien to just see what it looks like when it's not moving. When it does move, that's when we get our blurriness. And there's a couple of different things we're looking for. We're looking for something called inverse ghosting, whereas if there's a white trail behind it that's very bright, that would be inverse ghosting. Just standard ghosting would be like a black smear trail behind it. And then we also have motion blur. And this is just when you move an image across the screen, you're going to get motion blur. This is going to be due to the sample and hold frames that occur when you move an object across the screen. The more hertz, the less motion blur you perceive. So 120 hertz, if you look at the actual stars in the background, for example, look at the 120 hertz versus the 240 hertz. See how much clearer the background stars are versus the 120 hertz? That's what we're gaining. You can also see on the image, those white dots that are on the alien, there's actually separation between them in 240 hertz, where 120 hertz, they almost just look like a white line going across it. So we're definitely getting some gains with 240 hertz. Now let's look at response time. There's 3 settings for response time: fast, super fast, and extreme. On most monitors, if you set it to extreme, you're going to have a massive amount of inverse ghosting. I don't actually see that here. I kind of like the extreme preset. I've been running with it and I haven't noticed any issues. In fact, it looks a little bit more clear on extreme versus super fast. And if you look at those white bars down at the bottom, you can see some black squiggles on the super fast one, whereas on the extreme one, it's just not there. So I think this would be up to personal preference, whether or not you want super fast or extreme. I'd test them both. I think I'll stick with extreme. That seems to work pretty well for me. Next up, let's talk OSD. So the OSD is right here, and it's got this cool joystick that you can kick around in it, so it's really easy to manage. So we have our preset modes. We have quite a few different preset modes. We have standard, FPS, mobile RTS, and RPG, and sports. I have just stuck on mobile RTS. I'm not super picky about color accuracy, so yeah. We have game enhance mode. We have a couple of different options. We can display the frame rate. We can look at the display alignment. There's this timer, response time. Kind of went over this already, but there's 3 different types: fast, super fast, extreme. I leave it on extreme. Dark stabilizer, whether you want to use this for shooters or whatnot. There's this vision engine. I have no idea what that is. I'll throw some text up here on what vision engine is. And then we have our brightness and contrast set. This resets every time you change the game mode. Input source. We have 3 different sources. We have DP, HDMI, HDMI 2. There's some weirdness with the input source. Sometimes when I have my work laptop tied to this and I'm on DisplayPort and then it goes to sleep, it won't wake up HDMI 1. It's really strange. Never had that issue with the HP 27Q, but this wakes up 10 times faster than the HP one. HP one wakes up in like 10 seconds. This one takes like 1.5 seconds to wake up. So pros and cons, I guess. Display, we have our aspect ratio, color format, sharpness. Definitely leave that sharpness at 50. We do not want to enable sharpness on this thing. We do have speakers as well. We have a volume. I ignore that entirely. Then we have some menus and some personalized stuff and like serial numbers under the others and whatnot. That's really it in terms of the OSD. Pretty simple. There's a joystick on the back, and that's what you control your OSD with. You just push the joystick in to enable the OSD, and then you just move it down, up, left, right to be able to set it. This is the power button. I know this is the power button, and that is the OSD button. And the joystick is all you need. Yay, I think this is like up, down, and you can click standard, but the joystick is all you ever need. The real question is, should you buy the Dell G2723H? And I'm going to say no. I'm going to say you should not buy the Dell G2723H. And I have a few reasons for why. One, you compromise a lot. 27 inches is a little big for 1080p. You get 81 ppi, you can see the individual pixels. Do you get used to it? Yeah, of course. Is it easier to drive? Definitely. But is it a great experience versus 165, 1440p? I don't think it's worth the compromise. So I'd rather have speed than resolution. And I still feel like this monitor is not worth it. It's not worth getting at $300. It might be worth getting at $199, and it's definitely worth getting under $150. Is it worth getting versus a 1440p 165 Hz monitor? I truly believe that just comes down to what you can get for your price. If you're paying $300 for a 1440p 165 Hz monitor, and this one is $150, to me it's a no-brainer, buy the cheaper one. I do think there are some alternatives that would also make sense in the 165 Hz range or even the 240 Hz range if you can get them for a good price. Like the Gigabyte M27Q. There's also an M27QX that's a 240 Hz version, but that goes for $500. So don't know if that's totally worth it. The HP Omen 27Q is actually a really good value as well. You can find those for $199 on sale, $150 if you're stealing it. And then there's also the KTC H27 T22. That's also a good value monitor. So my thoughts are, if all things are the same, if the price is the same between a 1080p 240 Hz monitor and a 1440p 165, and the size is the same, I'd say go for the 1440p. I think you're getting more bang for your buck with that. So if you're looking for a 240 Hz monitor, definitely take a look at this one. It's fairly easy to drive since it's only 1080p, and it comes in at a good price often. There are often sales, fire sales on this particular monitor, because I don't know how long they're going to be selling this in the US, but it's a great monitor. Comes with a 3-year warranty if you buy it directly from Dell, and it's just a good experience overall. No dead pixels, excellent monitor. Would I recommend this? 100%, but it depends on your goals. If you're just looking for the best bang for your buck, I still think a 1440p 27-inch monitor is going to be the best bang for your buck if you can get one that's 165 Hz. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.